Hello, Mixer. Oh wow, that camera is lovely cutting my head off. Let's go fix that real quick here. But we're going to be making I just did that and it didn't quite work out, I guess. That's a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to be making chickpea soup or chickpea stew. Sort of a Middle Eastern flavored dish. We're going to have use some roasted fire roasted red peppers, or at least one of them in here, not a ton of them. If there is one job I absolutely hate doing in a kitchen, it is cleaning fire roasted peppers. It's such a mess. I know all the methods. Tried half dozen of them myself. I just don't. Still at the end when you're sitting there scraping all whether it comes off easy or not, it still makes a mess. I just can't stand doing it. Much rather buy a jar of them. So we got some jarred fire roasted peppers. We have some Za'atar, which is a combination of hyssop, which is sort of a mint type herb. We have sesame. We have sumac. If you haven't had sumac, it's got a very bright, acidic, almost lemon-like flavor, but it's not acidic at the same time. So it's a great flavor without to add that like lemon bright freshness without the acidity. Sort of misspoke there. Anyways, and thyme. So this is a sort of a the recipe I'm going off of is Lebanese. I'm not 100% following it, so I'm just sort of saying Middle Eastern. But we got chickpeas that I've got soaking. I've had these soaking well over 12 hours now, closer to 16 hours. Probably wanted closer to 24, but I think we'll be fine here. They seem to have hydrated nicely. We'll give them a boil and they'll puff up a little bit more, but they've already more than doubled in size, I think. That was 1 cup originally dried. Well, here we have the original to compare. These guys. So to compare here, quite a difference in size now. I think they'll be making real hummus with the rest of these here. But these guys can actually, you can hydrate them in longer and it'll take you less time to cook. But I think we're going to be good with what we got going here so far. So, let's take a gander at this recipe again. Definitely going to start with cutting some garlic here. They are not shying away from garlic in this recipe. They're asking for 5 cloves. And I'm using fresh. I'm also using dried and rehydrated chickpeas instead of canned chickpeas, which makes a difference too. But I'm also adding stock and likely making this a little bit more soup than stew-like. But we'll see. I'm gonna still mash up some of the chickpeas at the end so they'll thicken things up real nice. And I'm actually gonna finish off this clove, so we're gonna actually do more than 5 for this. Or finish off this head of garlic. Head of garlic, not clove of garlic. Make sure chat's not making fun of me while I'm talking to myself. Actually, I should double check that I'm actually streaming here. Yes, okay. At least it says that I'm streaming. Gave me a couple errors here to start this afternoon, and I'm sort of running behind. I've been rushing to try and catch up here, and I'm still not done cleaning up the way I want to be cleaned up to start streaming, but we're here. It's 4:30. So I haven't done the spatchcocked chicken at home or on stream before, so this should be a little bit of an adventure. Even though I'm still going to keep it sort of simple, just going to spatchcock it and rub as much butter and herbs as we can underneath the skin. Hey, Wizard. Thanks for the host. I am quite lovely. Hope everything in your world is okay. That was rather smashed. Good, good. Just working on getting some garlic here. Don't know when you started in here, if you got here early or if you're not just starting in. I've got some chickpeas that I've had soaking since about 8 o'clock last night. Sort of late getting them on underwater, but still a decent amount of soak. And gonna do that. Gonna do sort of simple spatchcocked chicken, which I haven't done at home in this oven or live for streaming before. So we'll see how that goes. And doing chickpea stew can be, other than the fact that I'm going to use some of our beautiful, beautiful, beautiful pork stock. One of our containers here, the stock, and it is like gelled. It's like jelly. So I got 6 bags like this for 24 ounces, and a big old bag of ice cubes to use for throwing in sauces or just toss them with some veggies. You always hope to get enough gelatin that it sort of sets like that, so you can get the best out of your sauces. That'll give you a great sauce just like that warmed up. Or you could even more luxurious and add a bunch of butter into it. Stock's good for so many things. I mean, that's why I make them all the time. So, just gonna thin slice this as I normally do. My standard style. I actually don't know much about, I suspect there isn't a ton of it, but considering I don't know enough about Middle Eastern culture and cuisine. Don't know their styles of chopping, their styles of cutting food. It's one of the things I always appreciate about Chinese food. Is not necessarily all the flavors that they use, but the fact that everything they do is very efficient. It's highly efficient. They're so detail oriented because in a country where they have so many people to fill jobs, you know, jobs are much more focused and much more specialized themselves. So we're going to saute the garlic up with some of the cumin, some of the za'atar, some of the red pepper flakes. What all else have we got in here? We got bay leaves, we got paprika, we got tomato paste. Very heavily spiced dish, not a lot of veggies, not a lot of. If I had an onion, I'd probably throw an onion in here just because it's me, but mostly garlic and spices here. And as I was saying before, this is a dish that can be very easily made vegan. I mean, the only real animal products here that I'm adding into this dish are the pork stock, which it could easily be substituted for veggie stock, and I mean, a couple more beans and just mash them up, it'll thicken it up. You can thicken this thing into a paste with the beans. It's all a matter of how far you go with it. So I wanted to get this on the stove first because since we're cooking the beans are going to take a minimum 40, probably closer to an hour and upwards of as much as 2 hours to become tender. So, because we're going to go low and slow with it after we get all the flavor out of these spices. Drain the water that these been soaking in. Going to be using stock from here on out to flavor these guys. Okay. I'm not either, and I've been getting more into it lately. They take a little prep. I mean, you can do the fast method of rehydrating them by boiling them, but I find them fresh here at the markets here too in summertime. So I do have availability of beans that I don't have to rehydrate, I just have to cook. And so it can be anywhere from 40 minutes to 2 hours really to cook them, yeah. So we got our beans dried off, got a flame going on our stove back here. Got one of my pans that's been hidden away for a little bit here out, and some sunflower oil. While that's warming up, I'm gonna get my spices all together. We got sort of 2 additions of spice going on here. So we have our Za'atar here. You can have green Za'atar too, when it's much fresher. This is definitely dried at this point here. Don't know why I'm cycling through my drawers for that. This is going to take me a sec, so I'm going to cut the heat on this for a sec. Ground the cumin. Lots of cumin in this dish. Tablespoon. And if you know cumin, it's a potent spice. Putting this back. Going to use a tablespoon of Za'atar as well, but that's going into our second set of stuff. Sort of tempted to add a little bit more sesame seed to this dish too. I have some in my fridge that I've had for a while now. They're getting up there in age. Red pepper flakes. And, where did those go? About a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Smoked paprika. Teaspoon of that. I'm using smoked paprika because it's what I have. Recipes just calling for paprika. And the paste, we'll do that when we throw it in the oven or in the saute. And last thing, we're going to use some bay leaves. We're going to throw those in there when we throw the beans in, so I'm just going to throw in the beans right now. One more actual whole leaf. Okay, get that heat going again. Make sure I'm using the right mic here. I'm using the right mic now. Need a bit more oil in the pan. Garlic's sticking a bit too much, not without it even burning. This is quite a bit of garlic, so. Gonna add our cumin in. And our other spices here. Just to keep things from burning there. Don't want things browning, not burning. See, I got everything in there. Yeah. Okay. So 24 ounces of pork stock. Good pork stock. Gelled pork stock. And our beans. Or chickpeas, or garbanzo beans, or whatever name you shall choose. So we're just over the top there. I'm going to leave it uncovered to allow it to simmer. And we'll let that keep going here in the back. We'll bring it up to a boil and then lower it to a simmer. And get going on that chicken here in the meantime. Oh, let's throw a little red pepper in there too. I forgot I need to do that. Can really smell that cumin, and that can get you choked up just like a vinegar can if you get too much of that going around. Wow, this one's good on there. I don't know, maybe someone out there's got some miracle way of cleaning a pepper without it being a disastrous mess. I mean, it still looks like it was a disastrous mess for these guys, and they're in the business of doing it. Yep. Washing my hands right before I get them all contaminated with chicken. Sort of the life of a chef. Where are you, chicken? Oops. Start our oven here in a second here to 400 degrees, which is the temperature I'll start the chicken at, and then we'll drop it down and cook it at 325 until it's done. Why do I end up doing chicken on Wednesdays? I've said this before in chat. I end up with smelly crap in my house. I'm gonna have to put it out in the bin early. Like 15 minutes before my stream started, I literally just rolled the carts back in from being emptied by the county. Not by the county, but my local trash. Let's see, we got any lovies in here? Yes, we do. Got a neck. Got a mature there, and we got a liver. Nice. just cut our way up both either side of the backbone here. Give this a rinse out. That way, it lays flat. Pat that down all dry. Oven 400. Starting to get there with these guys. I'm going to taste it, but I almost want to add a touch of honey to that. But we'll see what it's like. Touch of honey. So we got things relatively dry on this side, and we'll switch sides and do the same thing. Keep one of the wire racks, one of our sheet pans here, which is really a half sheet pan. This is a half sheet pan. I don't want to pull it out. That's a full sheet pan. So we're going to salt this lovely lady. These guys will all be good flavor. These guys, I would love to use. I'd love to do chicken liver mousse at some point. I just don't get enough of them at once. I went back and listened to the difference in audio with the changes of adding a couple of filters to my mics, and very happy with that change. So hopefully people can hear me a little bit better now. Don't hear my fans as much. As I said before, I'd still love to find some software or something where I could link up these two Yetis, and even though I know they're sort of, I mean, they're USB mics, so they're not really ever going to be considered Pro mics, but that I can link them up together and create, like, using both of them to get the whole kitchen together rather than getting echoing. Ooh, boiling. Turn that down to just barely a boil. We'll let those guys continue to cook. Get rid of our bags and our trash here. I'll be right back. Still waiting on our oven to preheat. Okay, so let's go back to dealing with our chicken here. We're going to have to add some butter to this situation. Also need to dry this off because it still isn't dry. Hello, Spatchcocked chicken. Need to make up some butter for this guy, or this gal. Turn the fan on, can you tell? No, spatchcock is the flattening it out, where I have taken a pair of scissors and cut on either side of the... This is the spine of the bird. And just cut essentially the spine of the bird out in half, and then giving it a second cut to cut the... many people just break it with their hand, but I like cutting it. Gets you a little bit cleaner of a cut to break the breastbone. I'm going to go through a number of ways of cooking chicken. Some of them I've tried, some of them I haven't tried. One of the ones that I'm going to try here soon, I don't drink a lot of beer, but I'm going to have to do beer can chicken. I'll probably have to do beer can chicken outside on the grill too. Figured out how I can hook up an old cell phone to OBS, and so going to use a old Nexus 6 to be my fourth camera, but I can't really use it. Takes a bit to set it up, so I'm not going to be doing that every day. Excuse me. So I got the hiccups here. Adding a bunch of thyme here to our butter. I need another piece of butter here to go with this. So, just a little bit of butter with our chicken. Some chicken with our butter, rather.
I'm going to put some parsley in the soup too, but put some with the butter as well. This has sort of become my sort of hack. I'm not really making compound butter here. I'm just sticking the herbs to the butter, and I'll stick some salt and butter salt and pepper to the butter as well, and then we'll stick the slabs of butter underneath the skin of the chicken. So a little bit of prep, but the little bit of prep here is going to make it a lot easier when it comes to actually putting all of this under the skin of that chicken. Yeah, but it's not going to take me the time of mixing this butter up to room temperature, blending it all together, pressing it into some nice neat shape, and then refrigerating it again so that I can cut it for in here. But when butter melts, this will all come together anyways, so it doesn't really matter if it's in a cute little puck. It sort of is anyways. Alright, so we got our butter set. This is sort of the part that most people don't like, but gotta sort of get your fingers down in there and separate the skin from the bird. One bird you probably won't see me do is oh geez, this Peking duck, or one type of bird, this Peking duck. It's because probably the best way to do it is to have an air compressor. They'll hook an air compressor up to the neck of the bird and shoot air and use the air to separate the chicken from separate the duck from the skin all the way around. That's how it's renowned for being so. So crispy skin with their Peking duck. And you sort of want to shoot for the high area. You don't want to go too high on the breast because otherwise it'll all leak off, but up towards the top as high as you will let it go. And then up around the top of the joint for the thighs. I don't know of one to search of, but there are most certainly YouTube videos of people trying various methods to do that for. Oven up to 400, yes. Okay. So, last step is to salt the top of the bird. Give ourselves some pepper on top of the bird as well. And rub a little oil on there too. Actually, I should do a little oil before I do the. Using my nice local Sonoma olive oil. One of the many perks of living in this lovely county with its wildfires and mudslides and earthquakes and extremely expensive cost of living and okay, back to salt again. Wet fingers don't care. Clumps of salt aren't going to hurt this. Okay, 400-degree oven. Throw this lady in there. Actually, I'm going to kick it up to 450. I'm doing that because I don't like how much. It's best to, if you're going to do a bird like this, or any roasted bird really, to have it chopped and ready to go and sitting in the fridge the night before. If you do it the night before, the refrigerator fan will dry it out, will make it just nice and perfect, really, for the level you need for cooking it in the oven. Because any moisture that's on the top, like that bird had visible moisture on the top of it. And that's all got to burn off before we even get to browning anything. So, drier bird is better. I dropped the time by 5 minutes there. So we'll do 35 minutes at 450 and see where we're at there. That can almost cook a bird by itself right there. So we could be pretty close to done at that point. If we're not, I'm going to drop the oven to 325 and try not to rock it the entire way there. Got our beans on the stove. Got lots of garlic. Got some roasted red pepper, some bay leaf, a whole bunch of cumin, a whole bunch of cumin, a bunch of Za'atar, some tomato paste, all sorts of loveliness in there, all sorts of spice, all sorts of goodies. And I had to work on my zooms because that doesn't work. I need to do a zoom on my stove because there's certainly times that I need to show you all 4 burners, but there's certainly times when I could just zoom in on that one. Okay. Anyways, we have garbanzo beans, bay leaves, garlic, pepper, Za'atar, which is a combination of herbs and sesame seeds. Going to raise the heat on that just a little bit. I want that a little bit hotter than it has been, but we didn't want a full boil. One of the things with beans is you also don't want to rock it up there and heat and temp is because you'll strip off the skins on them and you'll have this mixture of mushy beans and or maybe even half cooked mushy beans and skins. So I sometimes take a little too long when I'm doing things here on stream. I'll admit that with no problem. Losing my power here. Hopefully not losing my power. Did you guys see that flicker? I'll leave it with this. Way to go, PG&E. Yeah, I was getting, there goes another light flicker. I was getting into it that, I know that I spend too much time sometimes, and it's sort of on purpose because I'm trying to make sure I'm 2 to 3 hours here on a stream, whether I'm making essentially a grilled cheese sandwich or whether I'm doing an elaborate dinner. But it's good to go slow with cooking. It's good to go slow with baking and allowing your doughs to properly rest and properly rise and allow your beans to cook slowly so they don't overcook or become a mushy mess, even though we're sort of looking for a mushy mess tonight. Oh, don't do this to me. I'm gonna go shut my other computer off.
Okay. Now let's turn the monitors off too. Okay. I can already smell that butter. I can hear the butter sizzling. I can smell it. I don't know, maybe you guys can hear it a little bit if I switch mics. We want that. That's good. That means that, you know, at least in certain areas, we're not fighting with that much water and it's already sizzling and cooking. I think a lot of people, and that includes myself, like doing, when they're cooking chicken or roasting chicken, typically doing, unless you're doing one integrated dish, like when you're roasting chicken, I tend to like to do it sort of simple, because that way I can match it up with a couple of different things. I mean, some parsley, some thyme, some butter, salt, pepper, that's pretty as basic as it gets with doing a bird. So we're going to spice the things up here with the chickpea soup here, or chickpea stew. Za'atar. It's a Middle Eastern spice blend that is very common. I mean, I didn't have to go searching more than one place to find it. And actually, the place I went to had 3 different versions. 4 if you count the one. I think they had 2 different ones in 2 different packages. Or 1 in 2 different packages. Oh, come on. The lack of fingernails is just horrible. This is a sort of very dried out version. And it's a combination of hyssop, Hyssop, sort of a mint-like herb, maybe even the same family of mint, I don't know for sure. Maybe even, you know, like a type of mint. Sesame seeds, sumac, another Middle Eastern commonly used spice, which is giving me a very bright, lemony, lovely flavor without the acidity that you would get with, say, lemon, and thyme. So, not a very spicy mix when it comes to Za'atar. It's a very herby and nutty, somewhat, the sesame mostly giving it a little bit of a nutty, a little bit sweetness to it. And herbs. Actually, almost not too far off from herb de Provence, minus lavender. Give you an idea of what. Oop, gonna turn the fan on high here. We're getting some smoke going here. All those drippings in the pan are smoking. So I finished up the last of the Woodford Reserve and went back in for another bottle of Buffalo Trace, which for less than $20 for a bottle, I don't know. I don't think Four Roses beats that. I didn't really like the Four Roses, to be honest. Then again, Buffalo Trace, more through their other brands than Buffalo Trace itself, essentially is bourbon. Yeah, Buffalo Trace, they're not, well, it's sort of a marketing thing. The Buffalo Trace is the distillery. And so the distillery got so well known because of all the other whiskeys that they make that they started making Buffalo Trace whiskey just because. And so that's their cheapest line of bourbon. But they're also the same place that you find Blanton's or Pliny, or not Pliny, but Pappy, the really expensive bourbon, and this guy here. I bought that one when I visited him. Colonel Lee H. Taylor. This is made at Buffalo Trace as well. Probably won't see me drink that one on stream. That's sort of my special. It's not that special with whiskey, but it's sort of my special event whiskey when I have a friend come over, or that sort of a thing. Don't know if you can see that on stream, but this is just smoking away here. Yeah, you can sort of see that. That isn't most of that is not steam coming off of that pot. That's smoke coming off of our bottom pan, our roasting pan. I'm gonna have to do some scrubbing here, I think. Add another fan to the mix here. Yeah, it's getting a little smoky in here. In other news, my orchid is blooming. Had this guy for 3 years now. 4 years, something like that. Well, I closed my bedroom door. I'm as secure as I'm going to be here as far as keeping that from going off. Open the kitchen window here too. One second. You see, us Northern Californians, we're prepared for a smoke. We can handle that. Right by the door. After 3 years of wildfires, I'm sort of used to it. Granted, Paradise was not in Sonoma in any way, but we were smoked out for like a week and a half. Like, all of that smoke was coming right through our area. So I think I'm going to back this down now. I'm dropping the temp down to 400 here just because of the amount of smoke that I'm getting now. First day of Formula One racing since today, or not actual racing, but testing. Got to see the actual cars. Got to see Renault actually showed up, which they did, but they showed up with a nose that's like a carbon copy of Mercedes. Their controversial new nose wasn't the fact that it's a new nose; it's that they copied the leaders. Which, if you're following the news about Renault, they've had shakeups in the leadership. They've been company is not in a great place right now, and if it is, it's still recovering. Yeah, I think the news of the day was how many laps Red Bull was doing. I think they did a race and a half in their testing today. I was talking earlier. I was in BU's chat room earlier today. Our chat room. I'm old. Our mixer channel. And was talking with Minion about Formula One. And we were going back and forth about it, and I actually ended up getting the Formula One online streaming service this year because I calculated that I could get the Formula One streaming service, which gives you better viewing than you get on ESPN or Sky. And you get multi-views and you get all the radios and everything too, versus the TV. And I could get a full season of actually seeing the Red Wings instead of just the dozen times that they're out here on the West Coast a year. And it would cost me less than a TV subscription for the year, and would leave me money over to do a couple binges here and there, maybe CBS or Netflix or whatever my fancy is for a month or two here or there, especially with their free passes. So, I know I'm relatively new to setting up the streaming here, but if you're in my channel, you can expect me talking about Formula One. You can expect me talking about the Red Wings on top of my cooking. And I know the Red Wings aren't exactly in a great place. Honestly, don't even know the team roster right now, which at times I could have probably rattled off without even thinking. But very excited and hopeful to see what happens here with Yzerman over a longer time period. I think he's just setting things up, much less trying to start. Want all that paper. Smell of this is reminding me of that's where I've also had stuff like this. Is I don't know Himalayan cuisine enough to know if he's doing authentic Himalayan cuisine or not, but There's a guy that does Himalayan cuisine in the Marin County farmers markets, and the smell of this between the cumin and the sesame and the chickpeas, um, it's all hitting those same flavor notes to me as his combination dishes that he'd be pumping out at the markets, which he does pretty good business. He does, for doing what is all steam table food, he does a pretty good job and a pretty nice setup. Marin's health codes are so much better and so much better enforced than they are here in Sonoma. Um, so much better. You know, you hear all the wine, you think this is wine country, and there's a ton of money here. But at the same time, we're still a little country. Because it's all wine and vineyards, but we're also all farms. Makes for a very odd mix to some other place. You have, on top of it here in Sebastopol, we got the whole hippie element too. Trying to fight civilization in any form. Very, very interesting place. Sebastopol is a very interesting city. It's sort of the gateway to all of West County Sonoma. And so we get a lot more traffic and a lot of people through here, but there's not a ton of people that live here. They're all passing through. But I was actually looking at it, it looks like once the figures are done here with the census and all that for 2020, in my lifetime, the world population will have doubled. And it will have effectively tripled since 1950. Sort of scary. It's a chicken. Actually, I could just do that right now. Don't know how close I want to get to the flame with one of those things. I don't know how much alcohol is in one of them.
now that I've got the mics working a little bit better, I still got still a work in progress here with the microphones. But now that I've got them doing a little bit better, next step is going to be working on getting those cameras and getting the images, refining the images a little bit better. They all look a little, I don't know if it's just me, they all look a little dark to me, other than maybe the main cam looking at me. This cam and this cam both seem rather dark to me in comparison. And so I'm going to brighten them up and toy with that. I guess that works for zooming in on the stove. I was thinking of setting up a whole nother source, or a whole nother scene. But I've already got like 20 scenes. And that's with, well, that's with the new cell phone, so. 5. Yeah, right around 20 different scenes now. Cut some parsley here for in our soup towards the end. Give me something to do while we're relaxing. Got another minute here on the chicken until we drop it to the lower temp. We'll pull it out here and give it a quick temp, but it's probably going back in. Zoom back out here on our so that's nice and browned on the outside, but are we cooked nicely? Oh yeah, that's looking nicely. I think we may stop with that. No, it's looking pretty good. There's no real. Well, the smoke is all, yeah. Maybe with the amount that the drippings did, but it was all the butter and drippings. The chicken itself is looking pretty amazing. Actually, see if you can see there. There we go. So we'll let that carry over cook. See how our garbanzos are doing. I have a feeling these are not nearly cooked enough. They're getting there though. I'll turn this up a tiny bit more.
Well, the chicken, like I said, I try to do the chicken often somewhat plain and simple. I mean, chicken by itself is often awesome, just roasted, especially if you do it well. But that way you can put heavy spices in the soup like I did and add in a ton of other flavors, and then if you still have chicken left over, you can use it for something else. You could also make a lovely pan sauce with that butter that's still there, and a couple of my chicken stock ice cubes. That's all you need. Go that little mashed potato or something like that, be a great home style dinner. I think I'm going to take a piece of foil here and cover that chicken up since it's going to be sitting here for a minute. So I cheated and bought sourdough bread today. I'll get into me. I probably won't do sourdough bread anytime soon, but I am going to do some more yeast stuff. So we got a little crusty whole wheat sourdough to go with our soup, which haven't had a very cold or rainy winter here in Sonoma, but this is a perfect, cold weather, warm me up soup. Like I said, you can do it vegan, but I'm using pork stock in there. But you could also, add in lardons or cook a ham hock when you're doing the beans and add a little protein in there too. Well, beans have partial protein, but so I'm not doing a very fine chop on this. You want it to sort of be still visible as leaves. I just don't want the giant big leaves everywhere. There we go, back up to a little bit of a boil there. The smokiness is subsiding now. And I haven't even gotten into proper smoking yet, because I am going to smoke some meat on this channel at some point. And as I was saying earlier, now that I've figured out how to use my old retired cell phone as an extra camera, we're going to do some outdoor grilling this summer. Who knows what all fun I can get into now that I have another camera that I can set up, and it works off of, since it's my cell phone, works off of my Wi-Fi, I can put it all sorts of places. But it can also get me in all sorts of trouble by showing things I don't want to show. So while it's highly mobile, I think I'm going to be using it only really in situations where I have it in a fixed location. Don't know how much longer we're going to need with these beans. Not cooked, but on the very edge of being cooked. No worries, E-Wizard. Hope you have a good one. Thanks for stopping by. So let's get some of our cheap whiskey from Great House of Bourbon. I'm going to give those beans probably another 20 minutes here, and then we'll probably be wrapping things up here, maybe 6:30 to 6:45ish. So you're here for most of it, anyways. Mm-mm-mm.
Let's see what happened in the world and news today, besides the interesting stuff I was talking about with Formula One earlier. Let's turn that fan back on. I guess Racing Point's getting all the flack for copying Mercedes, which, to be fair, they copied Mercedes too, but they're using Mercedes engines. They're in cahoots with Mercedes already. And yeah, they basically copied the nose on Mercedes as well, but I don't know. Renault just caught my interest with it being revolutionary. The Shamrock Shake is back. Which still won't get me to go to McDonald's. Which, yeah. Maybe as a kid, Shamrock Shakes was interesting and exciting. Now, you know, fake mint and a fake shake. Yes. It's sweet though.
Forgot I was streaming there for a second. Uh-oh, restaurant week's coming up. Am I gonna go anywhere? It's one of the only weeks of the year I tend to leave the house to go eat some other places. Yeah. So many of the restaurants here in Sonoma County have just, I mean, with the wildfires, at least from probably causing a large part of this in the last 3 years or so here, tourism here has just died. And so the restaurant industry here in this county is hurting bad, and have a lot of good chefs out of work, a lot of good restaurants going to work, and with the way the industry is going towards ghost kitchens and stuff like that, I don't think a lot of us are gonna come back to restaurants, or at least in their current form. So I'm sort of surprised that the hotel industry hasn't jumped all over ghost kitchens, and I mean, they all have giant kitchens that are empty half of the time. So our oven's cooling down. I can hold this pan comfortably without any feeling of seat. So I'm gonna throw this back in here. Mostly just to keep it a little bit warm while we finish up the beans. Probably just about perfect right now if I slice it open took a couple pieces from that bird now. Should be getting close here. And pull out the tater masher. Turn off our other fans here. And pull out our bay leaves out of this just because I don't want to have to deal with them when I'm mashing everything up. There's one more of you. Where are you? There you are. Don't want to eat the bay leaves raw. Don't want to eat them. They're not good for you. They have good flavor, but they don't taste too good going down. Let's see how this mashes. Maybe we'll give it a little bit longer, but yeah, it's gonna need a little bit longer, but close there. Few more minutes. Don't know if there's really anything striking my fancy here for this year in restaurant week in the county. There's a couple of places that I've been meeting to check out, but what they're offering here doesn't really excite me. Girl in the Fig isn't sounding too bad. $40 for crispy Brussels sprout salad with candy bacon, duck cassoulet, white chocolate and fig bread pudding with salt caramel. That doesn't sound too bad. But yeah, not a lot of these restaurants for Restaurant Week here in Sonoma are sounding that amazing. That doesn't impress me. The Velvet in Healdsburg, which they've been doing. That's a restaurant that I need to check out. That's a big hit for the locals here, and I haven't been there. But yeah, maybe Velvet and maybe Girl in the Fig, but the rest of the restaurants here in the county aren't exciting that right now. It's sort of sad. We got our garbanzo beans or chickpeas in a stew with a bunch of cumin, some roasted red pepper, and some pork stock from last Sunday. We're getting there. We're waiting for them to just get mashable, which they're still not quite there. They have a chew to them, but they are basically edible at this point. I would consider them, beans. Cooked. But there's still a little too much to mash up in there. We could add a little bit more sauce, a little bit more water to that. That's reduced quite a bit. Had some bay leaves in there earlier that I took out. There's some smoked paprika. There's a whole bunch of Za'atar in there. Got roast chicken, the Spatchcocked chicken, roasted and chilling in the oven still. And so, just really waiting on these beans to finish up before I toss a little parsley in there and plate everything up pretty. So we're just sort of chilling here, and I was checking out what's going on with Restaurant Week here in Sonoma County, which, as I was saying, is not sounding too exciting. Usually there's some pretty good deals, but like I was saying, the forest fires here in Sonoma and Northern California have really killed our hospitality industry and the tourists. It's pricey though. Yeah, that's sort of sad. Sort of sad. Contigo water bottles being recalled. It's not good. I mean, it's a water bottle. How badly do you have to mess up a water bottle that you have to have a recall for it? Coronavirus is going to hit our markets, which ain't going to be looking so hot for Trump when he actually has to vote, regardless of your thoughts. Luckily, it's looking like it's less deadly than the last. It sounds like it's more deadly than the flu, considerably more deadly than the flu, but less deadly than, say, the last major outbreak of SARS or. People are worried about it, and yeah, not a good situation. If I was cooking the beans to have them as beans right now, they're like perfect. But for our soup, where we want to cook things a bit further and have them a bit softer, we're going to mash some of them up to thicken up the soup. They got to go a bit further. Don't have any lemon, but lemon might be a good finish to this. Let's see where we're at. Let's see what our spices are like. See if I need to add more salt. I didn't add much salt to these. There was a ton of spice in there, though. Lots of spice. Definitely need salt. That's closer. I think I can live with that. I'll be right back. I'm in my hair. Back.
Okay, for sake of time here, I think we're going to call it here. Could go a bit longer with these beans, but I think they're going to be fine. They don't mash great, but they're soft enough to be nice and palatable. So we'll stop it there. We'll add our parsley in. Keep in mind, this was 1 cup of dried chickpeas. And I often overdo it. I may have did it just about right this time. But what I often do is I often make way too many beans when I'm doing, because I just overestimate. I start with small amount of drying beans and I'm like, there's no way this is gonna, and I end up with this pot full. So I'm 1 cup of chickpeas. 1 cup. We got we got probably 3 meals here of chickpea stew. Let's pull the chicken back out here. If you haven't seen the chicken from earlier. Get ourselves a picture of our bird. I'm just going to leave the bones on with the bird. And there we go. Got ourselves a lovely looking dinner here.
All right. So, I'd like to thank everyone for joining me this evening. I'm going to go and enjoy this lovely looking dinner here. Very happy with how the chicken and these beans turned out. I think the beans are going to taste lovely. Cooked through. Yummy. Alright. Thanks once again for joining. Hope you have, if you followed, if you haven't followed before, I'll be back on Friday. Don't have current plans yet for Friday. Come up with something interesting, something new to do. That's the plan here. Always come up with something new and interesting. Photos of dinner tonight and all of my dinners here on the streams will be on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram right there. And thank you very much. Have a great evening. Let me see if there's anyone else in the cooking channels I can host up here. Let's see here. Unfortunately, it does not look so. So, we're going to call it a night with that. Hope to see you guys all back here on Friday. And Sunday I'll be back again. E-Wizard, who was here earlier in the stream, will be streaming on Sunday mornings. He does baking. I do cooking. I've been spotting a few other people out there lately. Got Jamuna, who's other side of the world, doing a little bit of cooking early mornings for me. But maybe check him out as well. And one last time, have a great night. Thank you for watching.